right, good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast, and this is episode 180. This is a show where Jake and I share our feelings about the current state of PlayStation. But before we get on with the show, I want to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. YouTube.com/PS This Is Awesome. Visit us on Twitter at PS This Is Awesome. And Tumblr, psthisisawesome.tumblr.com. And if you want to make fun of our trophy list on the PSN, you can find me at anchorless_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at jakesaw01. And as always, you can write the show at psthisisawesome at gmail.com. And most importantly, do not forget to share this with your friends. Be sure you leave comments and rate the podcast as you see fit. And as a final reminder, this is a video podcast as well, which you can watch our ugly mugs do the podcast, I guess, in video format. Video did kill the radio star, and then the radio took it back. Jake, I said that a little bit slower than normal because I've been reminded multiple times this week that I talk fast. So for anybody maybe that didn't know that information, I tried to say it a little slower. Although you can slow down the speed of the podcast that you listen to at half speed. And you can also make them faster, which is a new trick I've been using a lot. Like I'll just listen to the podcast I listen to, I'll just double up the speed because I don't give a fuck like if they sound like chipmunks or whatever. I don't care. As long as I can just hear the conversations, I'm good. And you know, people like us like to maximize our time, so I don't know.
Nobody's really listened to that part of the podcast anyway, so you might as well just say it as fast as possible.
But they have to. Well, you're right, because no one listens to the podcast. I mean, that's the very first thing we do for shows. So no one listens to that. No one listens to.
I mean, very rarely. Like if they're listening to that part of it, I mean, they've already found the podcast. You know what I mean? So like, basically.
We're telling them stuff they already know.
You're plugging the Facebook the YouTube, and you're plugging the
our PSN
usernames or
that's
or
important.
Whatever,
people like that. But if you're on YouTube, you can see it. They're under our faces.
Yeah.
You know? So
I don't know.
Point well taken. I
don't think it matters. I don't think it matters that much. I mean, unless maybe slow it down when you're saying the actual names that people need to
information.
know.
Yeah, maybe.
But like the rest of it, I don't know that it really matters.
Well, for now, maybe we'll just keep doing it as a placeholder for when we finally get paid advertisements. And then we'll just use the beginning of the show to tell people that the podcast is brought to you by, and then name something instead of having this boring introduction.
John Deere.
Yeah, John Deere. That would be suited. I mean, we're always talking about Home Depot. Oh man, that'd be hilarious. Tractor Supply. That'd be so funny, man. I would love that. But yeah, man, how are you doing today?
It's not been a good day for reasons that I don't want to discuss on the podcast. But I'm feeling sort of conflicted at the moment. Just my emotions are all over the place. So I hope that doesn't come across too negatively in the podcast, but I'm going to try to put that all behind me while we talk about games.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that. You've been been on a good streak lately, so it's about time some thunderstorms roll your way.
Yeah.
Every podcast. How you doing, Jake? I'm doing great, man.
It's nothing related to me, just to somebody that I know. It's just unfortunate. So
sorry to hear, man.
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you, though.
Yeah. So I'm doing all right though, and let me tell you this. I guess I don't know. I have one more floor in my house that needs polyurethane. So, logistically speaking, when you do anything like this to your floor, you have to get everything off of the floor, right? But you need a place to put all that stuff. So, in my upstairs, I have 3 bedrooms. And in order to do 2 bedrooms in the hallway, I had to take everything from the hallway in the 2 bedrooms and put them in the 3rd bedroom, right? While I did all that stuff. And it's a time-consuming thing. Moving that shit is a pain in the butt to begin with. So anyways, I did all this. We're moving. We're good. We're not moving, but I'm moving through the process. We're cruising, smooth sailing. And now I'm at the point where I got to take all the shit I moved into the 3rd room and move it back to the other rooms. But the third room already had shit in it. And it had this big desk that I hadn't had to move yet. So I got out of work at 5, and I measured all of the, because I had to buy new shoe molding for the third room. And I measured roughly how many 12-foot pieces I needed, and about 4.5 pieces for this room. And then, I don't have a vehicle, so then I called my father. I have a vehicle. I don't have a vehicle long enough, right? I don't want to cut any of this shit down. I don't want to do that yet. I just want the pieces at my place. I could cut them in half and then fucking just figure it out and do the 45s and join them in the middle of the room. Anyway, so the problem, and we'll get to video games in a second. The problem is, so I called my folks. My dad's like, yeah, you can take the RAV4. I'll come along with you. If you need anything heavy moved out of there, I'll help you out. Perfect. Things are great. Swimmingly, I get to Home Depot, I grab the pieces, I get back to the house, and these things are huge. They're flinging all around, and because they're just these long strips, and you don't want them to snap, and clearly a RAV4 isn't 12 feet long, inside, so you have bits of it hanging out the passenger side, and my dad's holding them together so the wind doesn't get in between them and snap them as you're going down the highway. So get them to the house. Everything's fine. Get upstairs. I get, all the heavy stuff actually was, everything but the heavy stuff had already been moved by me. And he kind of knew that I was going to need a little bit of help, so he offered. So we get the big dresser out of there. Now keep in mind, it wouldn't be an issue had I not just re-polyurethane the floors to where we're moving all this shit. Right? So you don't want to scratch the floors. You don't want it. So I've got blankets everywhere. I've got these towels, so I'm not nicking the floor up, and when I move all this shit back, and we get the dresser over there fine, and then there's this office desk that's like an L-shaped recliner, so it's like a corner office desk, and moving one of those through a narrow doorway just ain't gonna fucking happen. And for anyone who's polyurethane a floor, you cannot do part of the floor, move something, and do the other side of the floor because you're going to see a line where it overlaps, and it's impossible not to make it overlap. It's kind of it's a process. There's a way to do it. Once that shit dries, you got to make sure it's nice and smooth, and there's no brush marks and no bubbles, that kind of thing. So I started disassembling this thing. Dude, what a pain in the ass. No one ever thinks about having to move the furniture once it's assembled in the room, because this thing was assembled in the room where the box goes in there, you open it up, you put it together, and then maybe 45 steps later, and screws and parts, and it's assembled, and you're like, wow, this thing's awesome. And then when you have to do a project like this, you have to disassemble the thing. The instructions are nowhere to be found. It weighs 1,000 pounds, and it's way wider than the door frame, and it becomes a problem. Anyways, it took longer, so I've been doing that all night. I got it out. I couldn't get it into the other rooms though. It just was impossible. So it's sitting in my hallway. So now to get to the room that I have to polyurethane, I have to do a Dukes of Hazzard over the desk to get into the room, dude. I just hate home projects. I love them, but I hate them. When it's done, I'll be so happy.
First of all, why do you have a fucking desk up there like that? You never work up there.
Here's the thing, Chelsea does, right? So it's Chelsea's office. Okay. So that's why
I guess I get that. Second of all, dude, why floating floors are so popular right now?
Because you have to do this shit.
People don't want to do that shit anymore. How much time you spent on that?
In money.
You could have literally slapped down a fucking floating floor. I mean, we did your whole basement in 3 hours?
Yeah, and it looks great. And there's no wear on it. It's not scratched. It's not dinged. It looks nice. Feels good.
And you probably, with all the fucking around you've done, you've probably spent almost as much money on all the materials for that floor that you put in.
Well, yeah, after renting the belt sander and all the stain, all the fucking lacquer. I mean, if you have to lacquer the thing every couple years because we're using a water-based, dude, it's almost $50 for a gallon of that water-based lacquer. And it's going to take 4 of them. That's $200 every couple years just to keep the floor in the relatively okay shape it's in, because when we pulled the carpet up, it didn't look great to begin with, but we did revitalize it as good as we could.
Well, that's your problem using water-based lacquer. You just need to just open all the fucking windows for a couple days and put the real shit down.
It looks like a fucking
It
basketball
lasts
court.
way longer.
Yeah, it does last
Just
longer.
shellac it.
Yeah, just fucking load it on there, dude. Let's talk about video games, man. But yeah, aside from that, I'm doing all right. Just been busy. Busy as shit, man. Real busy. I have a confession to make. Usually at the beginning of the show, we talk about games we're playing. I have not talked about a new game recently. I'm still stuck on Ni no Kuni. I have played minimally this week, and additionally, I did tell the listeners I was going to buy Returnal, which I didn't realize at the time, because nobody did, that Returnal was going to be extremely difficult, it seems like. And then I do like the idea that it's exclusively for the PS5, and they're saying it showcases the PS5 phenomenally. But it seems to be kind of punishing, and it doesn't seem like it's one of those games that I'm going to feel is going to be respecting my time. And I know that it's a roguelike. I get it. 100% understand that. But I was just kind of hoping that House Marquee would have thought a little more out of the box. But their save and return, we'll get to this later in the news, but they're saying like the runs in this game before you get to a save point can be up to 2 hours, if not longer. And then if you die in that time period, it just resets you. And it's like, dude, I just don't fucking think I have that in me right now. So while the game looks amazing and beautiful, sorry, listeners, I didn't buy the game because I'm not going to pay $70 to just waste my time in front of a TV. I'm just too old for that right now. But I think if the price goes down, I'll definitely try it. Or if we hit a dry spell, we got a lot of games coming out. I was going to say that I was going to try the Resident Evil 8 demo because the full thing's out now. For listeners listening, you're not quite sold on Resident Evil 8. But that game comes out May 7th. So it's going to be real soon. It's already May 3rd when we're recording this. So that game's coming out real soon. And then on top of that, I've been playing Ni no Kuni. I'm in Chapter 5. There's 9 chapters. I am cruising through that, and I'm still enjoying it. So I am finding time during my lunch and stuff to play that game. And for any of the listeners who played the first one and saw the reviews on the second one is easy, but it's really good. It's just really fun. It's a fine game. It's more than fun. And Ni no Kuni 2 is great. So, Jake, what are you doing? Are you playing any games right now?
So I started out the week playing some more Octopath Traveler. I started in BioShock, the original BioShock again. So I've been playing through that a little bit.
Yeah.
And your comments make me laugh because I actually did buy Returnal, and I've been playing that.
Oh, so we flipped.
Yeah.
We did a little flipperoo on this. Wow.
So here's the thing. I get your comment about respecting your time, but I feel like it's inaccurate for this game because this game is like intending to work a certain way, right? And so when you I know we throw that phrase around a lot on this podcast just because we're so busy and trying to find time to play games and all that stuff. But like, you know, at least personally, when I use the phrase, like when I say a game doesn't respect my time, I'm thinking more about a game like The Last of Us Part 2, where the game is just like there are just sections of it that are unnecessarily long. That's not what the game is about. We were talking about
grinding,
you know what I mean?
Grinding to get somewhere, right?
Grinding, right? Stuff like that. So, but this game is, so I will say that you're not incorrect in anything that you said as far as the way that the game functions.
Yeah.
Now, the caveat to that is that the game is incredibly fun to play. Ooh. It's like the gameplay, the actual game, moment-to-moment gameplay, it's like, imagine if a third-person shooter, imagine if they made like Resogun into a third-person shooter.
Isn't
like,
that
it's
cool?
Very, yeah, like the it's very fast-paced. The combat is very like, it's very kinetic and very like everything is really precise and accurate. Nothing's real floaty. Like you didn't, I don't think you said you didn't play the Resident Evil 8 demo yet.
No, dude, no.
When you jump into playing that, I'm going to play it. I'm excited to play Resident Evil 8. But when you get into that, you're going to see like the controls are incredibly heavy and floaty, and the camera is kind of like loose, and like that's just kind of how that works. This is very like snap, snap, snap. Like everything is very, very quick and accurate and precise, and it makes the game really easy. Like, it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it like, it takes a lot of the aiming kind of stuff and makes it a little as easy on you as it can. And also there is not a difficulty setting, but there is an auto aim setting, and you can set it from off all the way up to like super crazy auto aim.
Yeah.
So like that's like their version of difficulty, right? Where you know, they're not going to make the enemies weaker or anything like that. I kind of wish they did have sort of like an easy mode, but I get it because it's kind of still like an arcade game, and there wasn't like an easy mode. Well, technically there was an easy mode to Resogun, now that I say that. So, but to be completely honest with you, your biggest gripe is the biggest problem with the game. Yeah. And that is that the runs can take a while, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you die right away. Sometimes it takes, you know, an hour to an hour and a half to get through like a point in the game where you've actually unlocked something permanent, and it allows you to sort of continue sort of unhindered by this checkpoint. Usually what it boils down to is like right now, I bought it on Saturday, so I haven't really even played it that much.
Oh, yeah,
but I'm at this point now where it's like the first boss, and the thing that sucks about it, and it's kind of...
Can I ask something real quick before you go on?
Yeah.
You said you're at the first boss. Is there a save before the boss?
No. So, well, see, here's the thing, is that the map is different every single time you wake up. So it's sometimes you'll wake up and the boss will literally be the next fucking room you go through. Or sometimes you'll wake up and you have to play for a bit before you find the boss area, and then you can go fight him. But, and this is probably something that maybe doesn't interest you either, the other thing too is that like when you die, you lose all your shit. So like it's not necessarily advantageous for you to literally wake up and go fight the boss right away, because you have to like reacquire, you know, some of your buffs and like your weapons and things like that, and then get back into it. But like I said, I mean, sort of the thing that makes it good is the gameplay. Like it's fun to play, and I don't really care all that. It's not beating me up as bad as I kind of was worried that it might, in terms of being kind of pissed off about starting over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Just because like I said, the map changes every single time you play, so the levels are always a little bit different. Old. You can kind of learn the enemies and like their sort of sequence and the patterns. Everybody's seen like the trailers of Resogun or the not Resogun of Returnal, where like the enemies will shoot like a pattern of objects at you, and you can like learn them and try to dodge them and stuff, and it makes things really interesting. Like all the enemies have a pattern as far as like how you kill them and stuff. It's kind of got like, it's got a little bit of that like Souls-esqueness to it, but which I guess kind of makes sense because Dark Souls is inherently a roguelike. But it is challenging. I do think that, especially with some of the other roguelike games that are out there on the market, they really fucked up not having, and hopefully they patch this, but I'm guessing that there's probably a 50-50 chance they're not going to. In Curse of the Dead Gods, which is the most recent roguelike game that I played, you start out, you die, you start all over. You have no weapons, you have no nothing. You got to like start back over, and you start a level, and you have to get all the way to the end and kill the boss at the end of the level before you've completed that section of the game. But a level is made up of like a bunch of rooms. And so like you go through a room and it's got like a specific, I've talked about it on the podcast before, but like one room will have like, it's actually like a series of rooms, and it'll have a specific, you know, maybe this room has a weapon chest in it, and maybe this room has gold in it, and maybe this room has, and you just kind of navigate your way through it. Well, each room that you go through, when you first enter the new room, as long as you don't progress at all, meaning as soon as you load the room, it tells you you can save and quit right here, and you can come back into the game and start exactly where you are with all the shit that you have, everything. You start at this room, and you can keep going forward. Yeah. There's no reason why this game can't have a mechanic like that, where when you get to a certain point in the map, because there's like these big sections of map.
Yeah.
And when you get to a certain section or go through a certain number of rooms, there's no reason why they can't give you a point that's like, okay, if you die, you're done. You still got to start over from scratch. You still got to get all your weapons and back and everything. But there's no reason why they can't just say like, look, if you need to chill, maybe you want to play something else or whatever, you can stop right now. As long as you don't continue, exit the game, come back in and start right here and continue your run.
Cool.
Doesn't make it permanent. If you die, you're done.
That would be nice.
But
that'd be nice.
Just that one little thing.
You can like kind of save your progress, the things that you've accumulated. It's going to procedurally generate anyways the next time you come back in.
Right.
So what's it really matter, right?
But the biggest problem is like, you know, it's not necessarily that it doesn't save, because PS5 has the standby feature. You can turn off automatic updates on the PS5 so that it doesn't like close all your games and shit when it's updated.
Let me ask you this on this thought. Can you have multiple games in rest mode?
Well, that's what I was getting at, is that the reason why it's a problem is that if I'm in the middle of this hour-and-a-half run, and let's say I'm just like, I'm exhausted, I want to like just sit down and play some fucking Destiny with my friends or something. Like, can't do that. You got to finish the run or die.
Yeah.
And you've got to, otherwise, if you close the game and open it back up, you're starting over.
You're fucked.
And it's really, I feel like, I'll be honest, I love the game so far. I think it's super fun, and they do make things that like make it easier on you, where there's like, if you like, it'll let you die once and you come back to life, like kind of things like that. You can collect artifacts where like it doesn't kill you the first time. You can come back to life, and you can make it easier on yourself by the way you play the game. But my biggest complaint and the biggest, I think, miss on this game is that they didn't have some kind of just like, you know, checkpoint where we're not saying that you're done, or we're not saying that you're saving your like you're able to continue and you can die and come back or whatever. Like, make it all auto saved. Even don't even let you manually save, so that they control whether or not you can reload over and over again. You know what I mean? So like, and so that way you can quit and play something else. Like, I want to be able to yesterday I was thinking about like, oh, you know, Sarah's sitting here with me after we got back from my parents' house. Like, it'd be nice to maybe continue playing BioShock a little bit. Well, I fucking can't, because I have Returnal on standby and it's halfway through a run right now. So I've got to finish that run and then quit, and then I could play BioShock or whatever, which is just super annoying. And the thing it's to me, it's a fucking cop out, because they know it, because they literally say in the fucking game, when you load it up for the first time, it's like, there's no saving, but you could put the game in standby. It literally says that in the fucking game.
I don't understand
it. Put the PlayStation 5 in standby. I'm like, what the hell? It's a cop-out. Just put a save point in there. Like, you don't have, like I said, you don't have to make it permanent. Just make it so that I can quit my fucking game if I want to.
Right. Well, what's interesting is this. I'm going to jump to a news point real quick, because I addressed this in the news. So... all right, so let me find it here, because I have it. I have it here. Yeah, so I have in the news point, back to the reason why I haven't gotten Returnal yet is that there's no mid-run save. It says runs in the game can take upward to 2 hours, yada, yada. We talked about this. But Housemarque recently tweeted that they hear the community. The community is asking for this. And they've tweeted and they said, but for now, they encourage everybody to enjoy the game as it is and the challenge. So that was their response. But the key words are as for now. Meaning that maybe this was something they thought about and they were just like, we'll figure it out. Let's just, this way we can tap into the best of both worlds, like the diehard people who want that challenge. And then we'll say, you know what, the game's been out long enough. We're going to give you save points if you want it.
I wonder if it's something that either the way that they built the game is challenging for them to put it in there. With technical perspective.
Probably with the procedurally generated shit.
It could be, but it's like, dude, these free, like this other game I was telling you about, like Curse of the Dead Gods, it's the same thing. Yeah, like it's 3D and like the models are crazier and the textures are crazier. But like, dude, if I can do a manual save literally at any point I want in Skyrim and it will map where every item is in the entire fucking world, I think that you can make a save point in Returnal that is procedurally generated, but everything goes away every single time that you play the game. Nothing is persistent in that game. There's no reason why they can't do that.
Well, I'm really happy, dude, that you bought it. Can I ask one more question about it? The listeners might be wondering, and then we'll move on to the news. How are the haptics on the controller?
Dude, they are fucking awesome. I'm glad you brought this up. So, as the listeners probably know, I've been somewhat critical of, not critical, like I think it's impressive, but I've said that I like the adaptive triggers and all that shit, like not really my cup of tea. And especially, you know, but I did say that I do really enjoy the HD rumble on this, the DualSense.
Excuse me, yeah.
But dude, they do something, and maybe something else has done it, and I just have never seen it before. But Returnal opens the fucking floodgates as far as possibilities for what you can do with the adaptive triggers, because in that game, each gun has a primary fire and an alt fire, which a lot of, you know, games have, you know, like a gun has an alternate fire mode or whatever. The way that it works in Returnal is that they use the adaptive trigger on the L2, which is obviously your aim normally. And when you pull the trigger back, there's a hard resistance point halfway down. And as long as you don't pass that, it's just your regular aim. And then if you squeeze it farther than that, it switches to alt fire, and you press when you fire, it fires the alt fire.
Oh, wow.
So basically how far you press down that trigger determines whether you're doing a standard, like bring up the sights and shoot, or you're actually engaging the alt fire and letting that rip.
Like the special alt fire, the gun.
And they put a pretty like robust kind of friction point in the trigger, so you actually like stop when you get to it, and you're not just like yanking on the alt fire every single time you're trying to aim. It does take a smidge of time to get used to, but it works really well.
It's like a clutch on a motorcycle. Yeah,
and one of the other things that they do that is really cool about the game is that they use the HD rumble a lot, like for the rain that's falling, or like the way that like the sounds work and the way the enemies are attacking.
Have you played it with headphones?
I have not played it with headphones.
I hear that you should.
I'm sure that's probably true, and I can definitely believe that in terms of like spatially where the enemies are around.
I didn't mean to interject. You're talking about the rumble. Sorry.
But like I think they use the rumble to like kind of inform you sort of with sound also, but like when your alt fire has recharged and like all this stuff. But one of the other like key components of this game is obviously it's very kinetic. There's a lot of dodging and jumping and like platforming type stuff to use to get around all these enemy attacks and stuff. But there's also what they call an overcharge system, or not overcharge, adrenaline. I'm sorry. There's 5 tiers of adrenaline, and every 3 enemies you kill, unless there's a modifier on you for some reason, every 3 enemies you kill, you get 1 level of overcharge, and every level of overcharge grants you something different. Or sorry, adrenaline. Overcharge is when your weapon runs out of ammo. You've probably seen this before. Your weapon runs out of ammo, and there'll be like a box on the screen, and if you click like the reload or the fire button when it's in that box, it reloads instantly. Yeah. So they have that in this game. That's called overcharge.
Gotcha.
So like the first adrenaline tier is that it makes that box literally almost the entire width. So you can't really miss it. Reload almost every time. You can miss it, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And like the next one is like something about vision, like you can see the enemies easier. Another one is like it adds, like you imagine like the old arcade games when you get these power ups, like one of them like adds projectiles to your fucking gun as you're shooting.
Oh, that's cool. Like a contra like, spread fire or something. Or?
Yeah, like and they do like, and one of them adds like health. No, it's not health, because basically the way that it works is that you build these levels up, but if you get hit, it goes back to 0, and you got to start. It's like,
that sounds really cool arcade, though. It's like a mini game almost in it.
It's part of the arcadiness of it.
I like
but
that.
You definitely like, it pays to get good at the dodging and everything, because you can build your adrenaline up, and then you just fucking wreck shop while you have your adrenaline all the way up, especially if you've got a good gun and stuff. And
it seems like I might like the game.
I think, like, dude, if you maybe sometime I don't know how this would work with this game, but maybe sometime what we can do is
share play or something.
I could share play it with you or something. I don't know how well it would work because, like I said, it's so fast paced. I don't know if there's any lag at all. It might be kind of tough, but we can certainly try it. What was weird about it is that, what's that?
I'm tempted to pull the trigger. I'm just not quite sold yet.
It is a lot of money. I will get you that. I mean, and I was up late Friday night or maybe it was Saturday morning. I don't remember. And I'm literally like, I watched like fucking 10 reviews on YouTube for this game, and every single thing that they said about this game, I was like, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. The save point thing, fuck.
Yeah.
And then, like, just like you, I was like, I don't, and then I got it. And now, to be fair, if I struggle to beat this first fucking boss any longer, I might get to a point where I'm getting frustrated with it. But because it's one of those things, like I said, I mean, you have to play through the game, get your guy leveled up, or get Celine leveled up.
Yeah, do you notice that you're getting better at the game?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Now, but it is weird. It does almost feel like the game's getting harder the more times I die too, which is bizarre. But like, because I think what happens is that I think the way that it happens is not that the game's getting harder. It's that at the beginning, when you first play, the first so many cycles, the game kind of takes it easy on you. So you kind of learn everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Then they start.
And there's a lot of stuff that this game doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
As far as like what stuff is persistent through cycle, they call them cycles, right? What stuff is persistent and what stuff isn't. Generally, it's safe to assume that nothing is persistent.
Yeah, that's the safe route.
There are certain like resources that are persistent. There's this stuff called ether that if you get that, it lasts throughout playthroughs, and you can build it up and use it to like buy things or like unlock currency or there are these machines that if you put ether into them, it basically gives you an extra life. Like I was talking about earlier, so if you die, you just respawn whenever, but you have to pump this resource into it, and they're not exactly easy to find, so you can't do it every run.
Right.
You can only do it after you've played a few runs and gathered these resources up.
Right.
But one of the features about the game that I'm not super, and we don't have to talk about this all night. I'm sorry. I'm just. Well,
it's relevant, dude. It's something relevant. I'm sure the listeners are enjoying what you have to say about it because I was real curious about it.
Yeah, but one of the features about it that I'm not like super thrilled about is that like there's a weapon proficiency meter on your screen, and the more you kill enemies, the more that meter goes up, and you can actually find items and stuff that will automatically boost your proficiency even higher, and it'll like level up as you play through a run. And what that means is that your current level of proficiency is when you find a new weapon, that weapon will be at least that level or higher. So when you first start and your proficiency is 0, then when you find a new weapon, it's going to be level 0. You might get lucky and it's level 2 or 3 or something like that, but generally it's going to be level 0 or whatever. But if you level up your proficiency to like level 4, and then you find a new weapon, it will be at minimum a level 4 weapon, maybe even higher. So that's cool and an interesting mechanic, but that proficiency goes back to 0 every time you die. So you have to, and it's not like it takes super long to level this up, but I feel like what they should have done to make it a little bit more approachable to the average person is make the proficiency take longer to level up, but make it permanent. Do you know what I mean? Like make it so that, it's a lot harder to level up your proficiency to get better weapons right off the bat.
Yeah.
But you get to keep it. You know what I mean? So that like the next time you play through, you can start with a little bit of a kick. You know what I mean? You can start by picking up, maybe you always start with a level 0 gun, but if you've leveled up adequately, the first gun you pick up is going to be like a level 2 or like a level 5 or something like that. And it'll let you kind of wreck shop through those early levels.
A little bit for kicking ass the last round.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that and it sounds like they've already kind of patched the game some to sort of tweak some of the balancing.
I heard there were some trophy issues with the game.
Yeah, so I think that, but dude, the one thing that I haven't touched on is that the presentation and the story of this fucking game is awesome.
See, that's what I want. I want that.
And I feel like what has been so understated in every single review and everything that I've ever read or watched about this game since it's come out is that nobody talks about how fucking revolutionary it is that they made this real like roguelike, hardcore roguelike game and injected this amazing story that like you play and you die and you play and you die and you play and you die, and like I'm still, even though I haven't beat the first boss yet, I'll still come across to like a dead body of a previous me that has a voice recorder on it, and I'll pick it up and she'll be talking about the things she came across in one of her previous deaths. And like it's just little shit like this that is just so good. It reminds me of like the voice recorders in BioShock, where like that's how you kind of learn the story is through these voice recorders that you pick up. Plus like the world is telling you about it. And also like I found the creepy house that they show in the trailers and everything. And I think that like every major event in the story, you get to go back through the house and experience like some new things there. And it's very cool. And it's very like Resident Evil like, because it goes into first person and everything's super spooky. And then there's like this weird like astronaut thing that they show in the trailers all the time. And it's like, what does this all mean? Nobody fucking knows. Why can't I get off this planet? I don't know. But like, and then there's also like, this is an alien world and there's dead alien bodies everywhere. And you have no idea like where the fuck they are, like why they're here, what happened to them, all this stuff. And you find all these like glyphs all over the planet.
It seems cool as shit.
It allows you to like translate like these like stone tablets that you come across and stuff. And they'll be partially translated depending on how many of these glyphs you find. So it'll be like, you know, they'll show like when you read it, it'll show like a paragraph that's on this tablet. Yeah. And let's say you've only found like 2 or 3 of 5 glyphs, let's say. It'll have stuff in capital letters that is 100% accurately translated, stuff that's just random symbols that hasn't been translated, and stuff in lowercase letters that is just, you presume is Celine's like guess at what they're saying. Right. So it like doesn't really make sense until it all comes together. Like it's really cool, dude. I'm not gonna lie, the story stuff and the single player stuff, like it's really, really cool.
I'm into it.
The biggest beef about it is again, it's just that it's that roguelike, you know, that permadeath like, you know, thing. And like you said, it wouldn't be as big of a deal if cycles were like 20-30 minutes long. But like when you have a cycle that's an hour and a half, that's a little bit heavy, especially, you know, and I think the reason why they thought they could get away with it is because of the rest mode thing, and because they say it right in the fucking game. But especially after reading or listening to this news point you just talked about, I have a hard time believing they're not going to put something in the game,
something in place.
You know what I mean? Like something. Like
maybe you have to find the save, right? Maybe that's a part of it. Like you have to find it in your run. Yeah,
and that would be great. And it's like, hey, if you like, you find the save point, and when you get there, if you quit the game right where you're at, you come right back in.
Yeah.
But dude, it's cool. Like everything, the presentation's cool. Every time you die, like they show different versions of like the crash landing, and sometimes you wake up on the ground outside the ship.
That makes sense.
Sometimes
it would be a different version
inside the ship.
Yeah.
What's that?
It would be a different version because you're a different
every time, dude. The more I talk about it, the more I'm excited about it. It is really good. Yeah, I will say that, and it's getting really good reviews and everything.
I heard it has a slow start though for a Sony exclusive as far as sales.
Oh, as far as sales,
yeah.
I could believe that. I mean, they're asking a lot of money for it. And I honestly, if you were going to ask me, do I think this game is worth full price? I think it is. I do think it is, but it is for a specific type of gamer. And I think that where they muddled the messaging a little bit is that they made this game that is so Sony in terms of like its single player like story and presentation, where they presented it in a fashion so that everybody's going to want to play it.
Right, but it's just
kind of thinking Sony first. It's not first party, but it's second party. You know, they want Sony exclusive. They want to play it, but then they're like, oh fuck, there's this mechanic that is like a hardcore
It's
mechanic.
gonna eat the gamers alive, yeah.
Right. So I'm really hoping that this game sells strong enough to like
keep Housemarque above water, right? Like they deserve it.
Going, yeah. I mean, even like to make another, they deserve a second crack at it.
We might see an acquisition soon if this game goes well.
Yeah, I think it's like I said. I think it's great. I hope that it sells well. It might be one of those things where like it needs to people need to kind of read and listen to a lot of stuff about it, and hear how good it is. Because Dark Souls, Demon Souls sold okay, but it didn't do great. And then Dark Souls came out, and everyone kind of like latched onto it. And even though it's hard as fuck, and like the average person is not going to want to play it, they found an audience and it sells great. So I'm hoping that they find something similar here, especially if they can institute some kind of a semi checkpoint save system or something. You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of save systems, this podcast has none, so you're in it with the long haul for us listeners in this 2-hour run that Jake and I are about to embark on. Now, hopefully it won't be that long. We're going to try to stick to around an hour. We're at about 40 minutes right now. So let's get into the news, Jake. Thanks for sharing that with us, and I hope that we hear more about this game from you in the future shows, see how your progress is coming along with Returnal. But let's start off with some fresh news, man. Per an article Push Square posted, they indicate that Sony has made an investment in Discord. What a turn of events. And Discord will be somehow now integrated into PlayStation coming 2022. Now, let it be known that this news comes as there were rumors circulating that Discord was going to be bought by Microsoft. How weird.
Dude, there was talks that Microsoft was trying to buy Discord for like $10 billion.
So did they catch wind that Sony was trying to get a chunk of it and be like, well, maybe we ought to get this? Or was it a balk? Did Microsoft fake news this to force Sony's hand to spend money on something that they really don't think is relevant? I don't know.
No fucking way, dude. Discord is huge.
Is it big?
100. Yeah. Oh, dude.
Now, Sony hasn't purchased Discord. They have a small investment now in Discord. Let that be known.
But I think that Sony has been of the mindset lately that, they don't need to buy studios if they can cultivate exclusive relationships and not have to pony up the hundreds of millions of dollars that it costs to purchase a studio nowadays. So, and I can see, why Microsoft might want Discord, because it's way more than just, a chat thing. It is a chat thing, but it's like all these podcasts are
community building,
community building, all this stuff. And Microsoft could literally build it into Windows 10. I'm sure that's what they were thinking, plus on their Xbox and all that kind of crap. So that's probably why they wanted to buy it outright. And I don't know what made the deal fall through. Maybe Discord kind of wanted to maintain their sovereignty a little bit. But the fact that Sony came along and they kind of swiped a little bit of a deal out from underneath Microsoft, even if it's not a purchase, it's just kind of a deal. And this, I don't know, if how deep you've read into it, but one thing I don't know is that, like, I don't think that this means that Discord is going to be exclusively on PlayStation, because it could be that after this, Microsoft is like, I want it on Xbox too, and they can also get it. So
yeah, it's not going to be exclusive, but this means that we are going to be seeing some Discord integration into PlayStation. Next, and
I think that's huge.
Yeah, dude, it is big. It's a big deal. I'm kind of curious to see how this goes. Now, I don't have a Discord account. Do you?
Technically, yes, but I've only used it once because I downloaded it because I was playing PUBG when it first came out, when it was still in early access on PC, and a couple of my friends that were playing it, they were like, we do all of our chat on Discord. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll fucking download it.
I might have made one for the podcast a long time ago. I might have. We'll see. I don't know. If you search on there, we might have an account. PS, this is awesome on Discord. I definitely don't know what to do with it, but a long time ago, I might have made one. Hey, PS Plus games for May have been announced, Jake. We're getting Wreckfest on PS5, Battlefield 5 on PS4, and Stranded Deep on PS4. Did we play Battlefield 5 or no?
I did. I don't know if you did, because Battlefield 1 was the World War I game. And Battlefield 5, it went back to
World War II.
World War II. And I played it, and I remember talking about it on the podcast and saying that, like, it was decent, but it really wasn't that great.
I'll probably get it.
To World War One, Battlefield 1. They did kind of a similar thing, but it just didn't hit quite as hard as the Battlefield 1 stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it was still good.
Yeah.
It was a Battlefield game.
All right, cool. I'm not very opinionated about this lineup. You know, Wreckfest I'm not really interested in. Battlefield 5 is really the only one I'm kind of interested in, but I'll have to check my trophy list, see if I have any trophies for it, because I think maybe I did play it. I think I might have rented it. And Jake, there's a reason to bring this up, but there is a current lawsuit between Apple and Epic Games, right? And due to the lawsuit, there's been a bit of the veil has been lifted to reveal some private, secret, classified information from the video game. I put warning, but the video game world. And what's interesting is because of the lawsuit, certain documents are being unveiled to provide case in points for this back and forth between Apple and the Epic Games Store, Epic Games. And the first point that was brought up, and this information came courtesy of Push Square, of course, where we get most of our news. The first point is that Microsoft, obviously anybody would probably know this, is that Microsoft probably has teams looking at Sony first-person games and critiquing them and trying to figure out, what's Sony's play on this? What can we do better than them? Compare, contrast thing. They are the competition, after all. But their review team from Microsoft did a review for The Last of Us Part 2, and while they indicated that the narrative-driven game has a quality worth aspiring to, they stated in this review, this internal review that Microsoft's had of The Last of Us Part 2, that the gunplay is just flat-out terrible, including the weapon switching. And I don't know that I 100% agree with this.
I think that this is a little bit of Microsoft internally being like, they're not that good.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And, like, to be fair, they do admit that the narrative-driven game has a quality worth aspiring to, is what you said.
Yeah. The voice acting, the character development, that kind of thing. They really praised it. To be
fair, I mean, if they're comparing it to Halo or Destiny, yeah, the gunplay isn't. Those games also aren't third-person nearly as good as those games, right? But
what about Gears?
That's not the point.
Yeah, that isn't the point of the game. Right.
It's the thing is that the gunplay is serviceable.
It's ancillary to what the game stands for,
and it's meant it's not meant to be. I'm not saying that Naughty Dog on purpose made the gunplay not as good as fucking Halo so that it would be more immersive or something. But I think that Sony sacrificed gunplay feel for realism. So the way that Ellie kind of sways around whenever she's holding the gun, and everything's kind of loose and sort of it adds to that aesthetic.
I love it.
Of the game.
I love it.
And I think that's I have a hard time believing that maybe they overlooked this, but like I said, I think maybe this is a little bit of sort of denial on their part, but I didn't read the whole thing, so I obviously don't have a really
I didn't read the whole thing either, but that's what's up, man. I agree with you 100%. I agree that I think it's a little bit of jealousy poking through, or maybe Microsoft maybe saw potential to take a shot at Sony and said, you know what, we don't need to bring this document up in the lawsuit, but let's bring it up so that Sony knows how we really feel about their fucking gun sway in The Last of Us.
Now, what I like, the only, honestly, most people, especially if they've played The Last of Us Part 2, are just going to shrug off this comment because it's it's obviously
it really doesn't even matter.
It's a little bit of sour grapes. Now, if Microsoft comes out, makes a narrative game as good as The Last of Us,
has better
with
gunplay,
shooting mechanics as good as Halo, then yeah, they can swing their big dick around all they want. But
helicopter,
this,
dude.
But I don't know. I think it's a funny statement. Obviously,
it's a weird thing. But I wanted it to be on the podcast because it's a weird thing. And we all know that these companies do this, right? I'm sure Sony has a team that looks at Xbox exclusives and okay, well, what the fuck did they do here? Could we do better? How you got to compare yourself to the competitor. That's what makes the gaming universe drive forward. Is that these companies are comparing themselves to one another and trying to outdo one another, which which means we get better products as gamers. That's the important takeaway, is that they are trying to make better games than Sony, which is good for Xbox fans and good for Sony because Sony knows they're going to be, confronted on this shit. So,
dude, and I want Xbox to make a game as good as The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome
It'd be great
for the industry.
It'd be great for gaming. Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be fabulous. Hey, my second point about this lawsuit is that there was some documentation that came out about Stalker 2, and it may be coming to the PS5 3 months after its initial release. This is on Push Square. So the developer had indicated they are currently focusing on the Xbox versions of the game and had no plans for now to release it on the PS5, but anyone can read between the lines. So Push Square seems to think that the way that this was worded, that they are putting their focus on the Xbox versions of Stalker 2 right now, implying that there are other versions to put their attention to, but they're just not focusing on it right away.
Now, I will say that I'm not surprised that this is an Xbox focused or Microsoft focused, we'll say, because all Xbox games are on PC now. Because Stalker is a storied PC franchise. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they ever released it on PlayStation platforms. So this isn't necessarily that surprising of news. That said, I played the original Stalker, and it was really fun.
I heard it was a good game.
I hope that they do release Stalker 2 on PS5 and that it's, a good next-gen or current-gen iteration on the Stalker franchise, because I think it would be really, really, really fun to get into.
Very cool, man. Good. And the third point that revolves around the Apple and Epic Games lawsuit that is occurring at this very moment is that it was indicated and revealed that almost 50% of the money that's brought in by Fortnite is coming from PlayStation users, with only about 27% coming from Xbox users. And this is PS4 users, of course. So that's why it would seem that Sony is investing a lot of money into the Epic Games Store. So, into Epic Games.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, get some money back out of that or whatever, but... yeah, I mean, this isn't really that surprising just because there are so many more PlayStations than Xbox.
But it's verified now. Yeah.
But it's verified. Yeah, I mean,
we knew it.
It is an interesting statistic because I'm guessing that other, whatever that is, 23% is probably PC players, I'm guessing.
Well, I think there was a lot of iPhone.
Mobile.
A lot of iPhone mobile was the majority of it.
Is it on Switch? It might be on Switch. I don't know.
I'm not sure about that, but I do remember reading that mobile was a big 20-some%, I believe, and then the difference was the PC. But E3 is happening this year, Jake, and what I would like to see more developers do, or publishers, or whatever the hell Konami is these days. I don't think they actually develop their own games. They probably do develop cool, but they've backed out of E3. They backed out of E3. They said, hey, anything that we're involved in right now, not even close enough for us to even have a showing. We were listed to be a part of this. We're backing out. We ain't ready to show anything. So, tip of the hat to Konami.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, it's probably a twofold. One, they probably didn't want to just show a bunch of teasers for games that are 5 years away. And two, they probably didn't want to spend the money to be a part of what is likely to be a lackluster E3 this year. So
Sony's not involved. They weren't last year either.
Sony last couple years has basically given E3 the middle finger and been like, hey, look, we'll just do our own thing. One thing that I will say, no, sorry, it's going to be a later news point. You go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, and I think we're going to hop a news point because this is relevant to what you're saying. Instead of E3, Sony started doing state of plays, right? So we were blessed with a recent state of play from Sony this past week. We got another fantastic look at Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart, which I didn't need to see to convince me to want the game, but it only solidified my want for the game. We also caught a glimpse of Subnautica Below Zero, which might explain why we got Subnautica for free recently. Sony does this shit. We don't know what games they're going to do it with. That's why I think we're still going to see a Blood and Truth 2 very soon, because we just got that game free also. We're going to get something on Blood and Truth 2. I guarantee it. But Among Us is also showed that it is going to finally be coming to PS4 and PS5 in 2021. We don't know when, But yeah, man, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, big state of play dedicated to that. About a 15-minute state of play. It was awesome. I didn't really care to watch it, but I watched it because I was like, man, this game looks fantastic. But what were you going to say?
So I'm kind of honestly just irritated by this state of play, not what was contained within it. I think what was contained within it was great. But what annoyed the shit out of me is that I don't know, like, are they just like sniffing glue at fucking Sony PR? Why would they release this like 5 hours before Returnal comes out? Like, I don't understand. Like, they're just taking fucking PR.
There was
like
no mention of Returnal
away from their game.
No mention of Returnal.
Why aren't they like, at least to start this fucking thing or to end this state of play, be like, hey, look, we got this fucking game that's out that people have been waiting for forever.
Quick reminder while you're watching. Yeah, right. Quick reminder to everybody tuned in today. Returnal's coming out this week. Don't sleep on this. We're so excited about it. And then we're going to find out that it sold short, right? It didn't sell like what they expected. But they could have totally taken advantage of the state of play. Now, they think they
just
did
not did the state of play until fucking Monday or something. I don't understand.
That is weird timing.
Why did they like? It's the same shit that they did with Concrete Genie. They destroyed that game themselves because they released a huge fucking swath of information about the PS5 the same day that Concrete Genie came out, and it totally overshadowed that game in every aspect. And I can totally see that happening here because Ratchet and Clank is a storied IP. It's way bigger. People care way more about it. Yeah. And you're going to come out and have this big fucking blowout about Ratchet and Clank. Don't get me wrong. Love the game. Can't wait to play it. Maybe wait until after the launch of Returnal, the game that you've been waiting to put out for fucking... if I was Housemarque, I'd be pissed. You know
I'm sure they're not happy about that. But I mean, same time, they're probably so just... Who knows? They even fucking paid attention to the state of play, really. I mean, they have their own.
I'm sure they did. I mean, like they're Sony's second party. I mean, they work so closely with Sony. They had to have known. And it's like it's not like fucking Returnal got a state of play. You know what I mean? And
didn't they talk about Returnal at least at one of the state of plays? They had some awesome videos on the PlayStation YouTube channel, right? They had some nice videos.
They did have some good videos about it, but it's like
fuck. I mean, the state of play is like the thing now. Like it's the thing.
It's like Sony comes out and talks about their big things, right? Ratchet and Clank, obviously big thing, deserves a state of play.
Sure.
Ghost of Tsushima, obviously deserved a state of play. What the hell? Like, why not do something for Returnal? I think that I honestly think that Sony PR maybe have been trying to downplay this fucking roguelike thing. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just, I just get so frustrated because
they could have just done a reminder. Like, for those of you guys interested, this is the fucking week. Returnal's coming out, right? Like you said, like, they could have, started off with Returnal. Hey, here's the deal. This shit's coming out. Make sure you put it in your wish list because now you can have a wish list in our PSN store. Tote that you can do that in the store now. Talk about the store briefly. Returnal. Here's how you use it. Boom. And then here's Subnautica Part 2 or whatever. Oh, here's this other fucking thing. Oh, Among Us. Yeah, we're not sleeping on this. It's coming, guys. And then, boom, Ratchet and Clank. That would have made so much more sense. You don't have to go into detail about Returnal or what it is. People can look that shit up. We're not idiots.
The problem is that what they really should have done is moved the state of play until after Returnal come out. Because what happens is that all of the news sites and all of the aggregators now, all of their fucking pages
are about Returnal, not Ratchet and Clank.
15 minutes about Ratchet and Clank, and here's what Subnautica is, and blah, 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 blah. And down here is the Returnal review.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It should have been fucking Returnal on every single web page.
Everywhere. At the very top.
Games. And then Monday, you can have your thing about fucking Ratchet and Clank.
That's a valid point.
That game is gonna sell. You know what I mean? Returnal is a new IP. You need to push that shit.
Yeah, Sony's not good at that, though. They're not good at it. They're not good at
fucking up so
bad.
They
need a better fucking publicist over there. They need somebody who knows how to orchestrate this shit, who's dialed into the games, the release dates, and can get this shit on the right track because they are missing out a little bit. I agree with you, but I will say this. Surfing through Push Square looking for some news for this show, man. Returnal is everywhere on that site, dude. And
Good.
Digital
I'm
Foundry
glad.
did a really nice thing on Returnal, I think. And, IGN was the only place that really had a mediocre headline about it, and it was about the shitty 2-hour runs without save points. And I saw that, and I was like, fuck, it's one of these things probably, but I'm going to, and that was kind of a naysay kind of deal, but... Dude, I don't know. Let's jump back to the last news point. So real quick, we kind of vowed not to talk much about Cyberpunk, but for anybody out there who's been kind of sitting on it, waiting for the right time to play the game, like you maybe, Jake, who knows, Cyberpunk 2077 got a 1.22 patch, and they're boasting even more fixes. So the game's probably running pretty damn good at this point, I'd hope.
Yeah, we'll see.
Better than when I fucking played it, that's for sure. Let's move on to new games, Jake, and then we'll close out the podcast. We're shooting about the right time right now.
What about you said you missed out? You didn't say about Sackboy being a fucking esport now.
Yeah, that's a thing. So Sony they got the new esports thing. What was that called? They bought that recently. I forget what it was called, man. People do the esports. God. We talked about it on one of the episodes in the 170s. They made that acquisition. Man, what the hell was that called? Anyways, maybe this was all part of it, which seems like a really weird angle. What was it? Evo.
Evo is the fighting sports, a fighting game.
Maybe
tournament.
they're gonna try to expand Evo and make it like fucking more than just fighting games. But apparently, Sackboy's Big Adventure is going to be an official esports game, which is so fucking weird to me.
It's super bizarre, man.
Yeah, man. I don't even know. Oh, and I was right about Streets of Rage new characters that are coming out with the DLC. They did unveil that Max is one of them, and I knew he was going to be. Now, I'm not sure who the other ones are going to be, but, dude, new games coming out. It will be PS5 if I say so. Ben 10 bundle, Wreckfest PS5, Skate City PS4, and Resident Evil Village PS5. Now, this last week we did get Returnal and a couple others, I believe. Now, I think we already mentioned that in the last show. Those were coming out. So that's all I really have. Jake, do you have anything before we close off here? Are we good for the night? It's a work night. I'm glad. I want to apologize that the show is a day late. You're going to find this. I'm telling you, you're going to see a little more of this, not releasing on the normal day that you're used to, but we are going to keep with the weekly schedule the best we can. It's a busy freaking weekend. Jake's been busy. Summer has hit. We've been doing band practices. We're trying to get stuff in order. I've got renovation stuff going on. And it's just making for long, long weekends, busy weekends. So recording different bands in my studio. It's a thing. It's just deal with it, people. But we are glad that you're here with us today, and you were here with us for the full show. Jake, did you have anything you want to close out with?
Is the kid on the rollerblades in Streets of Rage 4?
Skate?
Yeah.
He's not in Streets of Rage. No, he is. His old characters are, but there's no new character for him. There's no revisited.
Oh, so you could play like the retro character.
Yeah. But they wouldn't even let you play the retro character of Max in this game, which we thought was weird.
That is kind of bizarre.
But they had a new character made for him. Because he's in Streets of Rage 4 as a new character, and it's like, well, obviously they're going to give us that eventually, because they have the model already drawn up.
Right.
But yeah, man, that game's so fucking good. You need to get it, man. Beat 'em up.
It is fun, man. Those types of games are fun. I was actually really looking at, because there's all these sales, spring sales and shit going on right now. And one of the games that's always on there that I've heard really good things about is that River City Girls game. Which is it's a beat 'em up like Streets of Rage,
River
but it's
City
like
Ransom.
it's like these two high school girls like fucking beating the shit out of people. Like it looks really fun.
That's what's up.
I don't know. I don't know if that's available on Vita or something. I'll pick it up.
Yeah, dude, check into it. I got to get back to Valkyria Chronicles, but man, I was just gonna wait for the right time, dude. I started that and I loved it, and I was just like, man, Nino Kuni just kind of stole my heart, so I'm playing it, man. Nino Kuni 2, that is. All right, so unfortunately, again, there's no music closing track to the show. I apologize. I know you guys really like the music, but we need submissions to do this. So I guess if we don't have one next episode, maybe I'll put my band on. I don't know. We'll see. But don't forget, if you want to have your original music featured on the show, send an MP3 to our email account, psthisisawesome@gmail.com, along with your band name and the title of the track, and we will let you know if and when it goes live. And I think that's it for the show, Jake. Thanks for being here today with me. Thanks to the listeners. Thanks to everybody being cool. This has been episode 180. P.S. This is awesome. So we'll catch you next week. So like Pinball Arcade, Portal, and The Puppeteer. P.S. This is awesome.
This is awesome.